The first winter of a young Arctic fox in the vast, frozen expanse of the Arctic tundra, where the wind howled like a chorus of restless spirits and the snow stretched endlessly under a sky painted with hues of twilight, a young Arctic fox named Kivik was born into a world both beautiful and unforgiving. Barely 3 months old when the first whispers of winter crept over the horizon, Kivik's fluffy, cream-colored fur was still soft and thin, not yet the thick, snow-white coat that would shield her from the biting cold. Her den, a shallow burrow carved into a low hill by her mother, was nestled among frost-covered rocks, a fragile sanctuary against the looming freeze. Kivik's siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, had all been stronger at birth, but a harsh summer fever had taken them one by one, leaving her as the sole survivor of the litter. Her mother, Ayla, a seasoned vixen with sharp amber eyes and a coat like fresh snow, was both her guide and her protector, though Kivik sensed the weight of grief in her mother's quiet glances. As autumn's brief glow faded, the tundra transformed. The thin grasses that Kivik had chased through in her early weeks vanished under a blanket of frost, and the distant calls of migratory birds fell silent. The sun, once a warm companion, now lingered low, barely skimming the horizon before sinking into darkness. Kivik's first memory of winter was the wind, a sharp, relentless force that stung her nose and made her small body shiver despite her growing fur. Ayla taught her to hunker low, to let the snowdrifts shield her from the gusts, but Kivik was curious, her bright blue eyes wide with wonder at the glittering ice crystals that danced in the air. She would tumble out of the den, ignoring Ayla's sharp barks, to paw at the snow, marveling at how it crunched beneath her pads. The world was vast, and Kivik felt an urge to explore it. Even as the cold tightened its grip, the first challenge came with hunger. In summer, Ayla had brought back voles, lemmings, and scraps of ptarmigan, their bellies full from the bounty of the tundra. But as winter descended, prey grew scarce. Kivik learned to follow her mother on short hunts, her small legs struggling to keep pace through the deepening snow. Ayla was patient but firm, nudging Kivik to sniff the air, to listen for the faint scratching of lemmings beneath the snow. One frigid morning, as the aurora borealis shimmered faintly overhead, Kivik caught her first scent, a faint, musky trace of a lemming burrowing beneath a drift. Her heart raced as she dug, her paws clumsy but determined, spraying snow in all directions. Ayla watched from a distance, her breath steaming in the air. When Kivik's jaws closed around the tiny creature, its warmth a fleeting comfort against her tongue, she felt a surge of pride. Ayla's approving nudge was a rare reward, but the lemming was small, barely enough to quiet the gnawing in her stomach. Days blurred into weeks, and the cold grew fiercer. The tundra was no longer a playground but a battlefield, where every step demanded energy, and every misstep could mean death. Kivik learned to read the landscape, the way snow piled against rocks could hide a ptarmigan's nest, or how the faint tracks of a hare might lead to a meal if she was quick enough. But not all lessons came easily. One evening, chasing a hare's scent, Kivik strayed too far from Ayla. The wind picked up, whipping snow into a blinding flurry, and the world turned white. Panic clawed at her chest as she realized she could no longer see the low hill that marked their den. Her yips for Ayla were swallowed by the storm, and the cold seeped into her bones, her thin fur no match for the blizzard's fury. She curled into a ball, tucking her tail over her nose as Ayla had taught her, and waited, shivering, as the storm raged on. Hours later, when the wind finally eased, Ayla's sharp bark cut through the silence. Kivik scrambled to her mother's side, her body trembling but her spirit unbroken. Ayla's amber eyes held no anger, only a quiet warning. The tundra did not forgive mistakes. As the winter deepened, Kivik's coat thickened, its creamy hue giving way to a pristine white that blended seamlessly with the snow. She grew leaner, her movements more deliberate, her senses sharper. Ayla taught her to stalk with patience, to move like a shadow across the ice, her paws barely leaving a mark. They hunted together now, a silent team, though Kivik still marveled at her mother's grace, how Ayla could leap into a drift and emerge with a lemming in her jaws before Kivik had even caught the scent. But Kivik was learning, her small victories piling like snowdrifts, a stolen egg from a gull's abandoned nest, a scrap of seal blubber scavenged from a polar bear's kill, a hare caught after a breathless chase across a frozen lake. Each meal was a triumph, a defiance of the tundra's cruelty, yet the tundra held more than hunger and cold. One twilight, as the sky burned with streaks of green and violet, Kivik encountered another fox. He was older, his fur patchy from battles, his eyes glinting with suspicion. Ayla bristled, her tail high, and Kivik mimicked her stance, though her heart pounded. The strange fox circled, his breath steaming, but Ayla's low growl sent him slinking into the dusk. Later, Ayla explained that lone foxes often roamed in winter, driven by hunger to challenge others for territory. Kivik felt a pang of fear, but also curiosity. Would she one day wander alone, staking her claim in this frozen world? The heart of winter brought a new test, darkness. The sun vanished entirely, leaving only the pale glow of the moon and the aurora to light the tundra. Kivik's world shrank to shades of blue and gray, her senses straining in the endless night. She learned to trust her nose and ears over her eyes, to feel the crunch of ice beneath her paws to gauge its thickness. Ayla led her to the coast, where the sea ice stretched like a frozen highway. Here, they scavenged among the cracks, stealing fish dropped by gulls or nibbling at the remains of a seal. But the sea ice was treacherous. One misstep sent Kivik plunging into frigid water, her body shocked by the cold. She clawed her way back onto the ice, gasping, her fur heavy with water that froze almost instantly. Ayla licked her furiously, warming her until she could stand again. The incident left Kivik wary, but it also taught her resilience. The tundra demanded survival, and she would not yield. As the weeks passed, Kivik grew bolder. She began to venture out alone, testing her skills while Ayla rested in the den. One night, under a sky ablaze with auroral flames, she spotted a snowy owl perched on a rock, its feathers ruffled by the wind. Hunger drove her forward, though she knew the owl was a formidable foe. She crept closer, her belly low, her breath held. The owl's head swiveled, its yellow eyes locking onto hers. Kivik froze, her heart thudding. For a moment, the tundra was silent, the only sound the faint creak of ice in the distance. Then the owl spread its wings and took flight, leaving Kivik trembling but exhilarated. She had not caught her prey, but she had faced it, and that was enough. The turning point came late in winter, when the first faint glow of dawn hinted at the sun's return. Kivik and Ayla had traveled far from their den, driven by a scarcity of prey. They found a herd of musk oxen, their shaggy forms huddled against the wind. Ayla signaled for caution, but Kivik's hunger made her reckless. She darted toward a calf straying from the herd, her jaws open. The herd reacted instantly, forming a protective circle, their hoofs stomping the snow. A massive bull charged, its breath steaming like a dragon's. Kivik scrambled back, her tail tucked, as Ayla's sharp bark called her to safety. The retreat was humbling, but Ayla's gaze held no scorn, only a reminder that survival required patience as much as courage. As winter waned, Kivik felt a change within her. Her body was stronger, her instincts sharper, her fear tempered by experience. The tundra, once a vast and terrifying unknown, was now her home, its rhythms etched into her bones. She and Ayla returned to their den, their bellies fuller as small prey began to emerge with the lengthening days. One morning, as the sun peaked above the horizon for the first time in months, Kivik climbed the hill above the den and looked out over the tundra. The snow sparkled under the faint light, and the wind carried the promise of spring. Ayla joined her, their white coats blending into the landscape, two shadows against the endless white. Kivik felt a surge of gratitude, for her mother's guidance, for the tundra's harsh lessons, for the strength she had found within herself. The winter had tested her, shaped her, and she had emerged not just a survivor, but a creature of the ice, ready to face whatever challenges the next season would bring. Do you still like today's story? If you like, please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the like icon. You can receive notifications and hear the latest stories as soon as possible. Good night, my baby.